Dobro jutro, dobar dan, and good afternoon. You can already see Crypto Cito is wearing a polo shirt. Things are getting real. The vibe is changing. The tone is set for Cosmoverse 2025. And to be honest, for the entire crypto industry, because crypto is getting more and more institutional, more policymakers, more governments, more Web2 enterprises and institutions are joining the table and are getting involved in crypto in a big way. And in that context, we are also very proud to announce that we have landed Professor Dragan Primorac as one of our headline speakers, opening speakers for Cosmoverse 2025. Professor Primorac is actually the former Croatian Minister of Science, Education and Sports between 2003 and 2009. He's also a top scientist ranked in the top 2% worldwide. And he's also the founder of the St. Catherine Specialty Hospital. And he also ran for president last year. He's actually a runner-up in last year's presidential elections in Croatia. I actually had a call with Professor Primorac last week, and he's actually very, very interested to learn about Cosmos, about Web3, about blockchain, how it all merges with AI, and how that also affects the healthcare industry, the mobility industry, transportation, logistics, supply chain, all these other verticals and industries out there. Now, we have also announced a partnership with the Tourist Board of Split, and we'll have a couple of actionable items that will make the conference experience for all attendees better, smoother, and also mingle in some touristic activation points. So we're going to share more on that very soon, but very proud to have the Tourist Board of Split on board. Now, if you were on the fence about coming to Cosmoverse this year and you thought that Cosmoverse is going to be a nerdy family reunion with some Cosmos guys, then you were wrong, and you will see a lot more announcements, speakers, companies, family funds, pension funds, a lot more executives and also founders from other ecosystem projects. Then hopefully this will trigger the decision that you actually come out to Cosmoverse, not only because we have extremely low fare, $69 general admission tickets that cover you for the 3 days with food and beverage all included, but we also have a sick venue. I mean, come on, this is an insane venue right at the Adriatic coast with a little marina here, tennis courts, football courts, basketball courts, a full spa, full conference center, hotel rooms at 105 euros a night, which you can book right here as well. And you can also conveniently book that from Luma. You can book your ticket and get access to that page right here, or go on our website, cosmoverse.org, and you can also book things there. We already announced the first 10 speakers alongside Professor Primorac, and many more are coming. And if you're a developer, you can also request a developer's pass for Hackmas, which gives you also complimentary access. Now, before we get into what went wrong in crypto, what went wrong in Cosmos, and also some important project updates about the Cosmos Subatom, Celestia TIA, dYdX, Babylon, and also a new airdrop that you have to take action on and see if you're eligible. But before that, also, we are proud to announce that the Cito Zone is now available in Russian language. The Russian community is a massive community in crypto, lots of developers, and especially in Cosmos, we actually have a big community. So we have a news channel, we have a discussion chat. Big shout out to Vanya for running that, for approaching us, for just being a super active community member and running this community alongside Sepmos. Now, you can also join Cito Plus. That's the final thing I want to show here in self-promotion, which gives you access to a very engaged, active community of core cosmonauts led by Sepmos from my team, which means you're also in a safe space if you're questioning whether you should click on that link, whether that airdrop is legit, whether that piece of news is real, and also just have some questions. Maybe you want feedback on your portfolio. You want to see what we're holding, right? Me, Sepmos, and Tang, we're all sharing our portfolio, and we actually just updated it last week. So Cito Plus members get to see also what we're holding, if we're selling anything, and also the rationale behind it. And we also do exclusive content in there. And we even had some NFT whitelists, which means there's actually an ROI on that membership. So if you want to join, you basically have 3 options. The monthly, which is relevant for those that maybe just want to test it out for a month. You want to see how it goes. You don't want any commitments here. So one $39 payment and you get full access for a full month. 6 months, $185, which equals a 21% discount, or the annual membership, 36%. So you don't have the hustle of always renewing or considering any of that, and you can just be part of the community for 1 full year. Now, switching gears over to the institutional flywheel. Remember, I'm wearing a polo shirt, so we are shifting focus. We're shifting focus for Atom, for Cosmoverse as well. In fact, for Cosmoverse, we always had politicians doing the opening speech. We had the mayor's office in Medellin. We had Rodaina in Medellin. We had some people also last year here in Dubai. So we always had that, but now we're just doubling down on this. And Atom strategically is also shifting more towards that direction. So if you listen to my interview with Mark from 2 weeks ago, then you are aware that the plans to basically turn the Cosmos Hub into a smart contract platform with the EVM, permissionless EVM contracts, a vibrant DeFi ecosystem, liquidity, an app layer, all these kind of things, they're now fully overboard. So that is not happening. That is not coming. Instead, they're now working to establish a hybrid off-chain business model for interchain labs. And the revenue from that would basically be used to buy back Atom and to burn Atom, which means to constantly cause a buy pressure. And that is a very different approach, not only strategically, but also philosophically, right? Because that is a whole different direction for Atom. The core community I saw is vastly bullish. I also see under the comments in previous videos, but there's also some people with mixed feelings about this, which is fair enough. And obviously we have to see where that goes, because that means now the target audience is not Solidity developers, but instead the target audience is multi-billion-dollar companies, Web2 companies that ideally have 10, 20, 30, 40 years track record, governments, right? Financial institutions, the Revoluts out there, the Robinhoods, all these big companies, to land deals with them that they would build their own chain, that they will build anything using the interchain services from the Cosmos Hub on chain, but also now from interchain labs off chain. And that is very different to what we've seen and heard ever before. So we did a full post from the Cito Zone here the other day, and that explains basically the planned flywheel for institutions with Atom. Now, speaking of institutions, we in fact do have one organization that is very Cosmos native, and that is Deutsche Telekom, my beloved home country of Germany. Deutsche Telekom, we're leading and we're early in very few things, but in this, they're very early. So big credits to them, Deutsche Telekom. They're running multiple validators across many chains in Cosmos, and they have just launched a brand new product specifically for Cosmos called CosmoTrigger, which is basically a feature that allows you to automate Cosmos validator upgrades with ease. So we'll definitely check that out with Cito, hopefully other validators as well. And it's just good to see overall that Deutsche Telekom is building those products for the Cosmos ecosystem. So shout out here, and they will also be at Cosmoverse in Split later this year, so you can also meet them in person. Now, looking at the state of the Cosmos ecosystem, we have this beautiful chart here from mapofzones.com. According to Map of Zones, Cosmos ecosystem has around $32 billion in total market cap. If you add XRP and BNB chain, which is kind of IBC compatible and uses also parts of Cosmos technology now. We did this full interview with Ferran the other day, who built this XRP Ledger sidechain. But if you count that in, obviously Cosmos would be at a $250 billion market cap, or even like 400 billion or something like that. But let's be very, very real and focus on the natively built on Cosmos chains. And this is that chart here. And if we look at weekly stats for IBC, we have currently around $500 million in weekly volume, of which the Cosmos Hub is not accruing any of that, besides a very low amount of IBC Eureka transactions. But now that EVM contracts are not coming, I'm not sure what the future of IBC Eureka is going to look like. And we also have around 205K weekly active users, which is also very, very solid actually. So Cosmos, I understand, the perception around Cosmos is still today mostly packed to the price performance of Atom, right? And I've said this over the years, over and over and over again, that while Atom in its brand identity reflects Cosmos, it does not reflect the entirety of the ecosystem, right? It does not have any dependencies to Sane Network, to dYdX, to Noble, to Celestia, right, to Axelar. In some cases, they're even competitors from a product perspective. But the fact is also that the broader market does not really care about that, right? The broader market just sees Cosmos, Atom ranked, whatever, in the top 60. Depending on the price of Atom, the general conclusion is Cosmos doing well or not. But Atom still has this brand power that if Atom pumps, it means Cosmos doing well. If it underperforms, it means Cosmos bad. So that's just the matter of fact. And I think at this point, I'm also not even trying anymore to explain it too much. I think at this point, we just have to rally behind making Atom a top 20 coin, because a strong Atom will boost the strength of Cosmos as an ecosystem. And you can also see now the Cosmos Twitter account is pushing content like this, where they're saying Cosmos plus Cronos, while technically Cronos is Cosmos as well, because Cronos is built on a Cosmos SDK, enabled IBC, all these kind of things. They even have the Cosmos EVM, previously Avmos. So while they actually are Cosmos, I think it kind of makes sense to reclaim the Cosmos brand separately and peg it more and more to the Atom token, which makes sense, especially if there is a sustained business model and value accrual for Atom that captures value and upside. And that's exactly what they're trying to do, not only with institutions, bank, enterprises, governments, but also with other L1s that are coming out by providing Oracle services, by providing other services that the growth and adoption of Cosmos technology also accrues value for Atom with this buy burn buy and burn models. Now, dYdX is also a perfect example of a Cosmos chain that does not actually depend at all on the success of Atom. So if anything, I think they have very close integrations and relations with Noble. So Noble's USDC is playing a big role on dYdX. They have some very tight economic relationships here, but now dYdX is also focused more and more on building out the trading platform, boosting trade activity, onboarding new traders. In fact, we have something very cool coming very, very soon. And we also did a collaboration just now with Builder Codes, which is a feature that basically enables front-end builders, trading terminals, Telegram bot builders to simply plug in dYdX on the back end. And then on the front end, they can charge a commission. So you can just integrate dYdX using Builder Codes in a few clicks on your front end, and you can start earning from that as well. In fact, we just did a full video on that. It's also here on YouTube. The last video, you can watch it. It's a very short 5-6 minute video. And we've also posted it here on Twitter. And we're going to do more collaborations with dYdX. We've been working with them quite a bit over the past year, so always great to support them. The dYdX Foundation has also published a report that dYdX token actually ranked first alongside Euler and Layer 3 on the Blockworks token transparency framework when it comes to evaluating token allocations, team reporting, financial reporting, and off-chain operations, all this kind of things. So that's good, that's healthy. Of course, dYdX, they still have a lot to catch up on Hyperliquid, but now they're aggressively, as I said, aggressively onboarding new users, and I think that's going the right direction. On top of that, the dYdX Foundation, that is mainly in charge for the token and ecosystem marketing in that sense, they are buying back dYdX. So they just bought 4 million dYdX back. And in fact, dYdX, generally speaking, also has a very, very large treasury and war chest, which means they are well positioned coming out of this bear market, whenever that ends, for altcoins at least. Bitcoin is at all-time highs. Of course, Ethereum is pumping, but most altcoins are still down 90-95%. So when we're shifting the tides, I think dYdX is definitely one to watch. Another one that is going through a lot right now is Celestia TIA. And while it has a very strong chain-to-chain service with its data availability layer that is growing left and right, we have Hibachi, we have Eclipse, we have MilkyWay, we have so many rollups that are deployed on Celestia. We also have now XO markets, a conviction market that actually came out of the Celestia Mamuton. So very interesting project as well. But one problem child has been the TIA token. So what went wrong with the TIA token? Well, what went wrong mainly is that Polychain Capital has sold large positions over the years in staking rewards alone, and they have aggressively dumped. I have no insight whatsoever as to why they're just aggressively dumping. Of course, there's, as a fund, you have to maximize shareholder and LP ROIs, but this just seems personal at this point. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But anyways, the bottom line is now that the Polychain FUD is over, if you want to call it like that, because the Celestia Foundation has purchased back, they bought back 42.4 million TIA at $62.5 million from Polychain. So Polychain is walking out here with $300 million or something in profits. I think they were relatively early investors. I'm not sure if they bought at the $1 round. So now while the Polychain drama is over, we actually have some other drama, which is also potentially packed. I have not followed the story too closely, but the recent Lotus upgrade that also lowered the inflation by 1/3, which means staking rewards, inflation are going down, potential sell pressure is going down. But in that upgrade, something went wrong with IBC. So now a lot of users, or like everyone, is basically stuck and cannot transfer an IBC. They're working on a patch, they're working on a solution. I think it's coming in a very near future. But anyways, that is another drama that is currently going on. Plus also the fact that they might actually entirely replace their proof of stake mechanism with proof of governance and just get rid of inflation by like 99%. So the end game for proof of governance would basically be to have a 0.25% inflation rate that would be directly distributed to validators to incentivize chain network security. But it would also come with a lot of different things, massively reducing issuance and improving economic sustainability here. No more complexity of staking and liquid staking tokens, which is also the question, like, what does it mean for Drop Protocol, for Stride, for MilkyWay, right? All these liquid staking providers, because TIA is actually a large market for them. No more competition here between staking yield and DeFi yield. Also, the last point here, avoids the challenges of around unbonding for ETF issuers. Now, I think that is part of the entire trend we're seeing right now in crypto, being more and more compliant, making it easier and easier for ETF issuers, making it easy for companies that actually want to just buy positions and build up treasury. So yeah, we're seeing right now the treasury institutional ETF narrative. But yeah, on the other hand, of course, we'll always be very, very mid-curve here in this channel, because I'm mid-curve and I'm just focused on documenting the technology improvements, new applications, new products, new research, right? So that will, of course, remain the case here. And this also remains the case for many Cosmos projects, right? Because Cosmos still is a very mid-curve ecosystem, which I think eventually is also going to maybe even turn out to be the right curve scenario here. But Celestia also now has new launches, and they're working on lazy bridging, which is their native zero-knowledge interoperability solution. They've also just announced the launch of Evolve, which was formerly known as Rollkit. So Celestia is also massively improving the ecosystem and landing more and more partnerships. I think the only two things they need to figure out is BD, which means to land solid existing chains and projects, and two, to improve their economics. And I think then Celestia is a solid bet for this cycle. So I still have all my TIA. We're very bullish on it, even though the price obviously is now proving us wrong in that sense. Now, there's also a model from Kairos Research about the inflation curve for TIA right now. And also they're proposing now another halving, basically, because currently it's a 5% inflation. They're proposing to further cut that to 2.5%. And then the baseline is the proof of governance rate at 0.25%. So yeah, that is where we are right now with TIA, and I'll keep you posted on updates here. Speaking of inflation or deflation, Babylon has also just posted a research and blog post basically that is kickstarting the conversations to explore how to distribute those staking rewards to Babylon stakers, or to potentially also introduce a auction-based burn mechanism. I think similar to how Injective is doing it. By the way, also we just dropped out of the Injective set again with Cito. So if you delegate to us, please redelegate unless you have more than, I think, 20,000 INJ laying around, and you can delegate to us. Much appreciated. The general project state of Babylon is the following. So Babylon has around a $5 billion TVL, which means Bitcoin that is locked on Babylon. The original incentive for locking up those Bitcoin was to collect points. The baby token is live. The market cap is relatively low. It's like $500-600 million. And most people were expecting 10x of that, so 5 or 6 billion, because relative to the TVL of $5 billion, the market cap is tiny. But now the question is, are they going to pull a eigenlayer move and basically not have any economic activity, or are they going to have economic activity? And they just announced the first 10 BSNs, Bitcoin Secured Networks. Now they're called Bitcoin Supercharged Networks, I believe, or Babylon Supercharged Networks. But the idea here is that they start to generate economic activity, and that there will be an economic flywheel also for baby stakers. And in the long term, obviously, that should pay for incentives in that whole system, right? So both for BTC stakers, but also for baby stakers. I think that's going to be the challenge here. And secondly, they have also now implemented the EVM, the Cosmos EVM, or they're going to implement it, which means they also have their native layer, and Babylon itself becomes a user of Bitcoin staking. So that's another thing to consider here. Now, finally, regarding Babylon, to wrap that up, they currently have an airdrop going on for social contributors. So I connected mine. I was not eligible, but you might be eligible. Just go on airdrop.babylon.foundation and see if your social account, which is Twitter, Telegram, or Discord, is eligible for that airdrop. You have to register. I think you only have a few days left. August 4th is the deadline, so come Monday. Now, finally, we have Osmosis for the first time being fully deflationary. So yesterday, ProtoRef burned 48,000 Osmo and takeoff fees another 35,000 Osmo, which means that this outpaced the issuance, and Osmo is has been deflationary for the first time. So congrats there. I'm still holding on my Osmo, down bad. Of course, at a price of 20 cents, but I did buy some more at 14 cents, so I'm slightly up on that. And of course, over the years, if you factor in staking rewards, if you factor in some airdrops we got here and there, it's not actually that bad, but yeah. I did buy Osmo at 14 cents recently. I did buy Osmo at $5. I did buy Osmo at $10 as well. All-time high was, I think, around $12. So yeah, we'll see if it ever gets back there. Of course, as a cosmonaut and osmonaut, I'm optimistic and bullish, but I would say I'm cautiously optimistic, cautiously bullish. But yeah, if there is a good time to buy Osmo, then it's probably now, and has been for the past few weeks. Finally, last airdrop, MilkyWay. They have round 2 of the mass drop. So if you've used MilkyWay for their liquid staking, then you can come here, check your eligibility, connect your wallet, and then you'll see if you are getting that airdrop. Now, that's it for today. I hope you consider joining us for Cosmos Split later this year. In fact, today in 3 months is the final day of Cosmos. So yeah, we're just 3 months away. So I'll see you there. Until then, stay safe and be good.